voice can break the dark. A single spark ignites the heart. But if we turn when justice calls, the chains we forge will bind us all. When truth is silence, when lies take hold, the cost is freedom, the soul grows cold. No one stands tall while another must fall. Freedom for one depends on freedom for all. We're mavericks of freedom, rebels in the fight, defending every voice, defending every right. For the moment we falter, the moment we stall, we lose our own freedom when we let others fall. You can't stand free while others kneel. When justice fades, it's freedom they steal. An innocent condemned, a crime unspoken, and with it the bond of liberty is broken. No tyrant rules without our consent. Oppression thrives where silence is spent. Stand for the weak, the silence is small, or freedom will crumble for us all. We're mavericks of freedom, guardians of the light, fighting for the truth, for what is just and right. For the rights of one are the rights of all. We rise or we fall by answering the call. Even those we may oppose deserve the rights we all uphold. For if we deny them what is fair, we build our own prison in despair. The fight's not easy, it never will be, but justice for one is the key to be free. We stand as mavericks, together we strive, defending the rights that keep freedom alive. We're mavericks of freedom, rebels in the fight, upholding every truth, protecting every right. When one is oppressed, we're all in the thrall. Freedom for one depends on freedom for all. So take a stand, let your courage rise. Defend the truth, don't compromise. For the soul of the world, the writing's on the wall. Freedom for one depends on freedom for all.
Greetings Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
It's terrifying. Donald Trump, Liberation Day. Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about it. But Canada may have dodged a couple of bullets here today. It's still confusing. Even after he announces things, what do we have? Chaos. Still not entirely clear how this is going to play out. Canada. Sort of like at the top of the hit list when all this began. Now, not so much. Plus, Mark Carney, there is a scandal that might just stick. Like a real one, not a fabricated, made up one, like I'm seeing a lot of these online. No, this one might actually have some spaghetti style sticking power. Just enough to just take the edge off his lead in the polls. We'll see how it plays out too. But we're going to go to the phones tonight, so you can join the conversation, weigh in on everything going on with this terrifying trade war, whatever it is, this international global tariffication of terrestrial space. I'll be right back, and we'll start at the beginning.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
We also have a special report later in the broadcast, all related to that phone call with my mom the other night, with my mom and dad. It was really my dad's phone call, but my mom was participating from the background. And we were talking about, well, we'll get into it later. You're not going to want to miss it. Well, maybe you will. No, you won't. It's I put extra effort in to get this thing together for you. See, you have to stick around to the end. But we have other important things to talk about tonight, not the least of which is Donald Trump's Liberation Day. He started to lay out the details on these tariffs, and yet even as he did that, where Canada is concerned, there's still confusion tonight. But let's get to his big announcement so that you can get to better assess sort of what he's doing. This is the world's #1 global tariffist. I don't know what else to call him. He's not just targeting, as he said on Air Force One the other day, 10 or even 15 countries. He's tariffing the whole world. He's going to tariff everybody. Friends and foes, I guess, but more friends than foes. And some of the weakest countries in the world are directly in the crosshairs, and they are now under actual fire because they're rolling these things out. And he came up with a chart and everything. So it's super official now. Let's take a look. This is what it was like moments ago.
We had to live with that deal. It was the worst trade deal ever made by far. But since the very beginning of NAFTA, our country lost 90,000 factories. Think of what that is, 90,000. Think about putting a map up and putting tax on it. You wouldn't have enough room. 90,000. I said, is that possible? We had it checked 4 different times, and it was actually somewhat higher than that. And 5 million manufacturing jobs were lost while racking up trade deficits of $19 trillion. That was the worst trade deal ever made. As a result of these gigantic losses, foreign nations now own $26 trillion more of American assets than think of this, than the Americans own of their own foreign assets or other foreign assets. The United States can no longer produce enough antibiotics to treat our sick. We have a tremendous problem. We have to go to foreign countries to treat our sick. If anything ever happened from a war standpoint, we wouldn't be able to do it. We import virtually all of our computers, phones, televisions, and electronics. We used to dominate the field, and now we import it all from different countries. A single shipyard in China now produces more ships every year than all of the American shipyards combined. Think of that. And it was a business that we used to dominate. We used to dominate it totally. In short, chronic trade deficits are no longer merely an economic problem. They're a national emergency that threatens our security and our very way of life. It's a very great threat to our country. And for these reasons, starting tomorrow, the United States will implement reciprocal tariffs on other nations. It's been a long time since we even thought of that. We used to think about it a lot. We didn't think about it for many decades, and you see what's happened. For nations that treat us badly, we will calculate the combined rate of all their tariffs, non-monetary barriers, and other forms of cheating. And because we are being very kind, we're kind people, very kind. You're not so kind when you got ripped off with your salaries. My auto worker friends and my Teamster friends and all of the unions that typically voted Democrat, they're not voting Democrat anymore because worker, whether union or non-worker, they're for the Republicans now. That's what happened. But we will charge them approximately half of what they are and have been charging us. So the tariffs will be not a full reciprocal. I could have done that, yes, but it would have been tough for a lot of countries who didn't want to do that. I'd like to see the chart if you have it. Could you bring it up, Howard?
Get that chart.
This is
Get that chart.
Great Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick. Thanks, Howard. So if you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So 67%, I think you can, for the most part, see it. Those with good eyes, with bad eyes. We didn't want to bring, it's very windy out here. We didn't want to bring out the big charts because it had no chance of standing. Fortunately, we came armed with a little smaller chart. So 67%, so we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset? They will be because we never charge anybody anything, but now we're going to charge. European Union, they're very tough, very, very tough traders. You know, you think of European Union, very friendly. They rip us off. It's so sad to see. It's so pathetic. 39%, we're going to charge them 20%, so we're charging them essentially half. Vietnam, great negotiators, great people. They like me, I like them. The problem is they charge us 90%. We're going to charge them 46% tariff. Taiwan, where they took all of our computer chips and semiconductors. We used to be the king, right? We were everything. We had all of it. Now we have almost none of it, except the biggest company is coming in. We're going to end up with almost 40%. Lee Zeldin's working to get their approvals. And it's an amazing company. Mr. Wei, of one of the great companies of the world, actually. They're coming in from Taiwan, and they're going to build one of the biggest plants in the world, maybe the biggest for that. But 64%, we're going to charge them 32%. Japan, very, very tough, great people. And again, I don't blame the people for doing it. I think they're very smart in doing it. I blame the people that sat right in that Oval Office, right over there, right behind the Resolute desk or whichever desk they chose. Japan, 46%. They would charge us 46% and much higher for certain items like cars, you know, little items like cars. 46%, we're charging them 24%. India, very, very tough, very, very tough. The Prime Minister just left, and he's a great friend of mine, but I said, you're a friend of mine, but you're not treating us right. They charge us 52%. You have to understand, we charge them almost nothing for years and years and decades, and it was only 7 years ago when I came in, we started with China and charged them. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China in tariffs. And they understood, honestly. President Xi understood. He said, look, I understand. And the other countries, and they all understand. We're going to have to go through a little tough love, maybe, but they all understand. They're ripping us off, and they understood it. Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe. He was a fantastic man. He was unfortunately taken from us, assassination. But I went to him and I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. A trade is not fair. And he said, I know that. I know that. And he was a great gentleman. He was a fantastic man, but he understood immediately what I was talking about. I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. He said, I know that. And we worked out a deal, and it would have been a much better deal, but frankly, there were many years left on the deal that was made previous to my getting there, but it was something. If you look at Switzerland, 61% to 31%, Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia, oh, look at Cambodia, 97%. We're going to bring it down to 49. They made a fortune with the United States of America. United Kingdom, 10%, and we'll go 10%. So we'll do the same thing. South Africa, 60%, 30%, and they've got some bad things going on in South Africa. You know, we're paying them billions of dollars, and we cut the funding because a lot of bad things are happening in South Africa. The fake news ought to be looking at it. They don't want to report it. Brazil, 10%, 10%. Bangladesh is 74%. So you see what's going on. Pakistan, 58%. Sri Lanka, 88%. So what we're doing is we're taking not the full, we could take the full 88%. Thanks a lot. He's doing a very good job. How's he doing, all right? I think you better take it with you. It's not going to last very long. He's going to put it, it's going to follow you down with the wind. I brought a hat just in case it got too windy, but here, would anybody like a hat? I'm not giving it to a cabinet. I'm giving it to the auto workers. Come here. Thank you, fellas. Get it. That's it. That's it. They deserve it more than our cabinet. Our cabinet has plenty of hats. But you see the numbers. The numbers are so disproportionate. They're so unfair. At the same time, we will establish a minimum baseline tariff of 10%. You notice that on the chart. And that'll be on other countries to help rebuild our economy and to prevent cheating. So we're going to have a minimum of cheating, and we're going to be very severe on the people that at the gate that watch the tariffs and watch the product coming in, because there's been a lot of bad things happening at the gate because the money is so enormous that you're talking about. There's never been probably anything like it in terms of the enormity, and there are a lot of bad things happen at the people that do the check-in, and they're looking at 10-year jail sentences if they do play. We're going to treat them so good, but if they cheat, the repercussions are going to be extremely strong. Foreign nations will finally be asked to pay for the privilege of access to our market, the biggest market in the world. We're right now the biggest market in the world. We had a great country 4 years ago in terms of the economics. We were doubling up on China. We were doing so well. Nobody was going to catch us, but so much of it slipped away over the last 4 years under Biden. I campaigned on this policy throughout last year, and today that promise was made, and it was also a promise, as you know, that was kept. Promises made, promises kept. To any company that objects to our common sense reciprocal tariffs, again, reciprocal, back and forth, back and forth. And I call this kind reciprocal. This is not full reciprocal. This is kind reciprocal. But what we do is we cut it in half. We charge them. My answer is very simple if they complain. If you want your tariff rate to be zero, then you build your product right here in America, because there is no tariff if you build your plant, your product in America. And we've seen companies coming in like we've never seen before. Likewise to all of the foreign presidents, prime ministers, kings, queens, ambassadors, and everyone else who will soon be calling to ask for exemptions from these tariffs. I say, terminate your own tariffs, drop your barriers, don't manipulate your currencies. They manipulate their currencies like nobody can even believe, which is a bad, bad thing and very devastating to us, and start buying tens of billions of dollars of American goods. Tariffs give our country protection against those that would do us economic harm, and many people were looking to do us economic harm. Maybe not so obviously, but they were doing tremendous economic harm. But even more importantly, they will give us growth. These tariffs are going to give us growth like you haven't seen before, and it'll be something very special to watch. I am so looking forward, and Brian, it's going to happen even faster than you said. You know, you might say, but it's already started. It's already started. Work's already begun on plants all around the country, and you see that it's before. These are big, rich companies. We have $61 billion started on a big plant going up. It's going to be announced over the next 2 days, and they already started work. Many of these the biggest companies in the world, they've committed to build. We're going to build, sir. And they came here to see me, and wanted to know if they could have.
That's the gist of it. And again, there's some confusion still tonight about exactly what is happening with Canada. What I can tell you is that Canada has largely been left out of all of this tonight. We are not being included in these just across the board reciprocal tariffs. Mark Carney suspended his election campaigning for the day to focus on this issue. He says that he will soon have more to say about this. There was a fact sheet that was released by the White House today, and it says that Canada is exempt from this reciprocal tariff announcement. However, non-compliant Canada, US, Mexico, or CUSMA, or USMCA goods that are not compliant will still see a 25% tariff. But I told you the other night that the USMCA, or CUSMA, however you want to say it, the trade deal between Canada, the US, and Mexico, it seems to have superseded all of these tariffs, or a lot of them anyway, in particular with regard to the auto industry. But then we're still seeing that there's supposed to be a 25% tariff on automobiles that kicks in at 12:01 a.m. coming up for tomorrow morning, 12:01 a.m. So we're just hours away from that, whatever that means, because in the letter, it stated that if the automobiles being assembled in Canada or in Mexico met the USMCA North American content laws or rules within the trade deal, that they would be exempt from the 25% tariff. So I'm thinking that the auto industry isn't going to be affected. We also saw Letnick tell the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, a few days ago that no auto plants in Canada will close as a result of all of this. Ford saying doesn't really believe him. So all of this is still kind of confusing because Canada pretty much left out. Well, who's Trump targeting tonight? He's targeting places like Sri Lanka. Do you know what they manufacture in Sri Lanka? Largely things like clothing, T-shirts, stuff like that. Do you know what the average income is in Sri Lanka annually? Between $3,000 and $4,000 per year. That's how much they make there. That's why they're trying to use various tools to protect their economy from outside competition. I would say you can sit at home in the United States and collect social benefits and have about double that level of income and do nothing. If you live in Sri Lanka, you have to go to work for those kinds of wages to bring home $3,000 to $4,000 per year to support your family. And this is the country, one of the countries that Trump is going after with these tariffs. Yeah, I think that's terrifying. They have an 88% tariff in place, so he says, but I don't even believe those numbers because all the numbers he throws out are exaggerations. It's true. The truth is, there's no truth in the numbers that he generally shares. Occasionally, he might come in fairly accurate on something, but generally speaking, he just inflates, exaggerates, and conflates. Blah. That's my analysis. Blah. Because we still don't really know. We still have to kind of wait to see what actually goes into effect at the border at 12:01 a.m. And Carney saying he's going to have more to say about it. I don't even know if that's going to happen tonight. We'll try to bring you up to date. I do know that Pierre Poilievre is campaigning tonight in Kingston, so let's go live to Kingston for a big Pierre Poilievre conservative rally right now. Sorry about the poor audio quality, but it's a live feed and it's not high
before I get
res.
into the broader context of my remarks tonight, I should address yet another unfair attack on our economy from the U.S. president. In addition to unfair and counterproductive tariffs on our aluminum and steel, now President Trump is going after our auto workers. After, for decades, workers on both sides of the border locked arms to build the greatest auto sector in the world, the president is betraying America's closest friend and attacking our economy, proving once again that Canada must end its era of overdependence and weakness. We must be an economic fortress that can defend itself, that can stand up for its own people, and put Canada first.
And the steel and tariff, the steel and aluminum tariffs at 25%, they remain in place, buddy.
Conservatives will be there for the auto workers, to keep them working, to keep their jobs, to fight through this mess. We will push hard
The
to
ones
put an
imposed
end
by,
to these
by
tariffs
Trump
and get a
against
quick
Canada.
but fair deal that protects our sovereignty, knocks down all the tariffs, and allows us to rebuild our military so that we can be a true sovereign nation. But to do that, I need your help. If you believe that we need change in putting Canada first, then I need you to elect the great Brian Patterson as the next member of Parliament for Kingston. There he is. Come on up here. Come on up here. Here he is, the mayor. Give it up for this guy. He's the guy. Three-term mayor, known for cutting red tape, keeping costs down, running a tight ship, standing up for his people, always being there, the man who answers the phone and returns his calls and puts the people first. He is someone who will always remember that his job is to fight for Kingston in Ottawa, not for Ottawa in Kingston. And I think he'd be a lot better than Mark Garrettson. You agree with that? So, Mark Garrettson reminds me of he's been trying desperately to get in cabinet for a decade. He would literally say anything to try and win the favor of Justin Trudeau. Defended doubling housing costs, the rampant crime on our streets, decriminalization of crack, heroin, cutbacks to our military, disrespect of our veterans, blocking pipelines and shutting down our economic independence. He defended it all so that he could get a seat at the cabinet table, and it never happened. He reminds me a little bit of the politician who is desperate to get in the Senate in the era of John A. Yeah, have a seat, relax, stay a while. Take a load off. You know, this politician, a lot like Mark Garrettson,
sorry, folks, that's not us. That's the live feed coming out of Kingston.
And so he showed up at a funeral for a senator who had just passed. And he walked up to John A. MacDonald. And he said, "I'd like to take that man's place." And MacDonald said, "It's too late. They already nailed the coffin shut." Oh, if you don't laugh, you cry, right? You know, this city is a very special place. They call it the Limestone City because it's literally made of limestone, the most beautiful limestone structures anywhere in the world. Great Fort Henry, not far away, a real fortress and a symbol to resistance against potential American aggression, isn't it? It's a reminder that we are a peaceful, friendly, kind people, but never mistake our kindness for weakness. We stand up for ourselves and we put our country first. As John A. MacDonald said, "Whatever you do, adhere to the Union. We are a great country and shall become one of the greatest in the universe if we preserve it." And so we must work every day and in every way, not just to preserve the country that we have, but the promise that it has made to each and every one of us. That's the two-way street that the Canadian promise represents. Yes, you get the promise made to you that hard work will get you a great life and that you can do anything you want. But in exchange, you have to stand up and fight to make sure that promise is available to everyone else. The promise was made to me when I was born to a 16-year-old single mom who put me up for adoption to 2 school teachers. And they taught me that it didn't matter where I started, I could climb to the tops of the tallest peaks if I worked hard at it. It's the same promise made to my wife when she came here as a refugee. This country has given us everything that we have. And we, our family, believes we owe it to the country to give back, to fight for the country that we inherited from those who came before us. That ultimately is what the great limestone represents. It doesn't fade away. It resists the harsh elements. It can even stop cannonballs. It is so solid, it's like a fortress. And that is the nature of our country. We must become an economic fortress capable of standing our ground and protecting our future. Après la décennie perdue des libéraux, le Canada coûte plus cher, on est plus pauvre.
Okay, so let's take this down, and we will go now to your favorite. Don't get too triggered. He is the Prime Minister. Here he is. Here's Mark Carney.
Je vais prononcer quelques mots. So, President Trump has just announced a series of measures that are going to fundamentally change the international trading system. Now, in doing so, he has preserved a number of important elements of our relationship, the commercial relationship between Canada and the United States. But the fentanyl tariffs still remain in place, as do the tariffs for steel and aluminum. As of this evening, the tariffs on automobiles will enter into force, and the U.S. has signaled that there will be additional tariffs in so-called strategic sectors, pharmaceuticals, lumber, and semiconductors. So we're in a situation where there is going to be an impact on the U.S. economy, which will build with time. In our judgment, it will be negative on the U.S. economy. That will have an impact on us. But the series of measures will directly affect millions of Canadians. We're going to fight these tariffs with countermeasures. We are going to protect our workers, and we are going to build the strongest economy in the G7. In a crisis, it's important to come together, and it's essential to act with purpose and with force. And that's what we will do. Alors, en français, si je peux. Monsieur le Président.
All right, hang on here just a sec. Okay. Let's
just had a meeting of my Canada-U.S. Council. I will shortly have a meeting. We will have a meeting of the Cabinet Committee, Canada-U.S. Cabinet Committee. Tomorrow morning, we will convene First Ministers of the provinces and territories, and we will have more to say after we have taken those soundings. And we'll be back to you shortly.
And that's where it stands with the Prime Minister. So, sort of there. I'll tell you this, not nearly as bad as Trump was threatening, not nearly as bad, not even close to nearly as bad as Trump was threatening. It's still terrifying. But we're kind of back to where we were when he was in office the first time, at least for Canada, because he had tariffs. He imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum during his first go round in the White House. So we're not in bad shape overall. We're doing okay. I think we're gonna come out of this in much better shape than even I was thinking. We're maybe in deep crap this time, but not nearly as bad as most other countries. So, including the United States, they're in more trouble than I think Trump realizes. Unless you get these other countries capitulating, this is going to take the wind out of the U.S. economy's sails, so to speak. And it's already having an impact on stock markets. Let's take a look here. Here's a report tonight on the market reaction to what Trump has just done late today. Let's see what they're saying.
Market reaction after hours, I've never seen anything like it. This, I think fair to say, is worse than the worst case scenario of the tariffs that many in the market expected the president to impose. You laid out a number of the percentages there, and there's some question of how the administration calculated the percentages that they're responding to in each of these cases. Are they adding in value-added taxes? He talked about, non-tariff barriers as well. So I think while many were hoping that this would eliminate uncertainty, there's going to be more uncertainty in the market. And from those watching policy tomorrow on, well, if countries push back on how these non-tariff barriers were calculated, will there be wiggle room here? Exactly when do these go into effect? How quickly are companies going to have to adjust their pricing? So many questions.
A lot of questions. And like I said, those numbers that he was holding up on that chart, I don't think they're necessarily that accurate. They're building in all sorts of things into those percentages, including, the way they're saying that currencies are manipulated using interest rates to make various currencies competitive against the US dollar. We certainly do it. The Bank of Canada does that to make sure that the Canadian dollar is valued on the international monetary markets. Generally speaking, 25, 30, 35%, even as low as 40% lower than the US dollar. That makes our products much more attractive to US buyers, much more affordable. That's actually in some ways a benefit to the United States, but also it has to be balanced because that makes our products more affordable. Therefore, we sell more of whatever it is that we're producing to the US, and it makes us a very effective competitor to US producers of the same goods on the US side. Countries do it all around the world. The Chinese, though, they're notorious for it because they have a habit of really manipulating their currency levels to engage in what really, I think, does amount to unfair trade practices, because they use currency manipulation to position their entire economy against the US, sometimes in a way that is unfairly competitive, allowing dumping, because they combine the lower currencies with a lot of subsidies and then also protectionist measures in other ways. So, but he's calculating all these numbers, like 88% for Sri Lanka. I don't know about that. And it depends on and that's an all-encompassing number. 88% tariffs on what? Everything? No. That's oversimplifying a very complex economic system. It truly is. Here's Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario. Yeah, he is still concerned about this. I'm not sure what time this particular clip was recorded and distributed, but here he is. Let's listen.
I never saw Canada or Mexico on that list, and it just goes to show you two great countries working together, collaborating together, and building relationships. So it's I'm cautiously optimistic. I think it's if that's the case, it's the right thing for both the U.S. and Canada.
Well, and considering Canada was not on that list, we understand the existing regime is in place. So the tariffs that are in place with the exemption of goods that are USMCA compliant. Does that mean, sir, at least in your mind, that it wouldn't be appropriate for Canada to retaliate for this at this time?
That is correct. If that's the case, then I would highly recommend to the Prime Minister not to retaliate. And let's carry on a strong relationship. Let's build the AMCAN fortress, American-Canadian fortress, around both countries and be the wealthiest, most prosperous, safest two countries in the world.
Yeah, I would say we're in a good spot right now. Don't rock the boat. Don't poke Trump in the eye at this point. I don't think there's really much, if any, need to do that at all. We'll have to assess, though, after midnight. It still isn't really clear. So we have to wait and see what the reality is, not just what the rhetoric is. Here's, let's go to this. Here's an assessment from Canada's state broadcaster, CBC. What's their take on this? Even they, I think they're providing a little more clarity on the numbers here, but well, let's listen.
Get hit, what's going to get hit by, all of that kind of stuff. The White House just sent out a fact sheet with a couple of very key, interesting points, and you just started on that path right there. For Canada and Mexico, the existing fentanyl, those border security tariffs, they're going to remain in effect, unaffected by this order. This means USMCA compliant goods will see a 0% tariff. Non-USMCA compliant goods will see a 25% tariff. That's already sort of in place right now. And non-USMCA compliant energy and potash will see a 10% tariff. So that's what is already in place right now. In the event the existing fentanyl and migration orders are terminated, USMCA goods would continue to receive preferential treatment, while non-USMCA compliant goods would be subject to a 12% reciprocal tariff. So for as long as these border tariffs remain in place, the USMCA carve-out continues, according to this fact sheet from the White House. Another thing, Canadians have been deeply concerned about tariffs are going to be stacked on stacked on stacked if they're going to apply multiple sort of layers of tariffs. This fact sheet says some goods will not be subject to reciprocal tariffs. These include steel and aluminum tariffs, autos and auto parts already subject to 232 tariffs, copper, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors. So Canada is already dealing with 25% steel and aluminum tariffs. These are not going to stack on top, according to this statement from the White House. And he's also sort of carved out a number of industries that he's looking to impose additional tariffs on, saying that they're not going to be hit in this retaliation. So in terms of Canada, Canada still is obviously dealing with a mountain of tariffs when it comes to the steel and aluminum tariffs and the auto tariffs that are going to kick in at midnight. But when it comes to additional layers of tariffs, this 10% baseline tariff is not going to apply to Canada and Mexico, and it's not going to be stacked on top of the tariffs that Canada is already dealing with.
Okay.
Clear as mud, right? Okay. There's some clarity there, some. For now. All right, well, let's take a little break. We'll come back with some additional news, and then I guess we'll go to the phones. How does that sound? Is everybody excited? Get your dialing fingers ready. We'll be going to the phones shortly.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So Mark Carney, of course, was with Brookfield Asset Management, and I've seen some stuff that is exaggerated. I've seen some lies about it, but there's this story that has emerged, that is still percolating and could boil over in a multitude of different ways. It just depends on how deep this thing goes. This is, let me show you this. You may or may not be aware of this story. You may have heard about some things about it. You're maybe not aware of the details. But of course, Brookfield, as an asset management company, they have a wide range of different investments that they have sunk money into on behalf of their clients, managing assets for their clients. And one of the techniques the company has been using to minimize the taxes they pay is by setting up offices for some of these companies that they buy up on behalf of their investors, by setting up offices in places like Bermuda, which are tax havens. So here's this address. It's 73 Front Street, Hamilton, in Bermuda. And as you can see, there is a bike shop there. Now, CBC actually broke this story, and I see that it's now being picked up by some other media outlets as well. And it seems to be getting, its shoes on, and it's starting to make the rounds. The laces may even be tied up at this point, so the shoes are fitting and it's picking up speed. And there are several different entities of Brookfield, their core business, are registered to an address that fits this building where there's this bike shop. Now, according to the registrations, the office for these companies is up on the 5th floor of this building where you see this bike shop. Maybe I can zoom in or something so you can see this. There it is there. The Winner's Edge Bike Shop. Now it's not, I don't think they own the bike shop, but it's supposed to be up here on the 5th floor. Now, as you look at this, there's no 5th floor. So where is this? The CBC report that I initially read about this said there was no 5th floor, which added to the mystery and even the conspiracy surrounding this story. But as I understand it now, upon further investigation, there does appear to be a 5th floor, but you have to go around to the other side of the building. And this is on Google Maps. But if you are able to get a shot of the building from the backside, set in behind, there is a section of this building that goes up higher that you can't see from this angle on Google Maps. So it's set back in, and I think you can sort of see, I don't know, I guess you can't see that on this one. So I'm not exactly sure how it works, but there are new reports out saying there is a 5th floor. So at least there's actually maybe an address that matches this whole thing. If there hadn't been an address, I think this would be an even potentially bigger story. But Bermuda is a known tax haven. Mark Carney has already been grilled on this and says that he knows how the world works. And of course, he has a fiduciary duty to his clients, or had while he was at Brookfield, as the company does as well, to the clients to get them the most for their money, period. But of course, a lot of people are saying not very patriotic to invest in these countries and use offshore business entities for Canadian investors to shield them from the Canadian tax system because you're not putting Canada first. It may blow up into something a little bit more. I don't know. It depends on Carney's level of involvement, his level of knowledge. If they can illustrate or demonstrate that, it would depend on many, many different things, how far this can go. The optics, though, absolutely not good. I would say these are very credible reports. So I don't think there's any question Brookfield owns these assets, or they don't own them, that they acquired these assets and manage these assets, these businesses, on behalf of their clients. And they do seem to be registered at that business, at that address in Bermuda, several companies in that small building. But even though it's maybe a legitimate address, are they really running it out of there? This deserves more scrutiny for sure. And it could come back and blow up in Carney's face during this election campaign. And I'm sure that's what the Conservatives would like to see. And I'll tell you, this is coming not just from, conservative online streamers, people who are obviously, in the back pocket of the Conservatives. No, this is coming from CBC initially, which is not pro-conservative. They are generally not a pro-conservative organization because they know that their bread is buttered on the Liberal side, and certainly the NDP side. That's where they get the support for their funding. They always have. So I'd say that this is fairly legit. But that being said, it's mainstream media, and they're not inclined to do a hit piece like this on not on their liberal guy. So there's some smoke there. I'm thinking there might just be some fire. So keep your eyes on that one. That's the one that could really come back to bite him on the butt. All this other stuff about Epstein, that hurts him a little bit, but you can't really, it's all innuendo. And a lot of, all but one or two of those photos, which are AI generated with Epstein. There are a couple that are real because I know that the authentic images came from a music festival where Carney ran into Ghislaine Maxwell. Carney was there with his wife. Ghislaine Maxwell went to school with Ghislaine Maxwell's sister. So there's some sort of knowledge of who they were, and they are in photographs being seen together talking at this outdoor music festival from 11 years ago. Beyond that, I don't know what connections, if any, they have to Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, that whole sordid tale. But of course, his political opponents are making the most of it, and Rebel News putting that image on the side of their rolling billboard. So that, it with a certain group of people, that really hits home and hurts Carney. But those are people who are not going to vote for him anyway. I don't know if it's likely to hurt him on the Liberal side at all. I don't know. And then all this stuff about his book, I was thinking his book values, people are going after him on that. I'm thinking maybe we should read a little bit of that together one night during the campaign just to dig into it and find out what the facts are, because I've seen some pretty spicy, shall we say, allegations come out of that. I know that he's absolutely a climate change economist. He wants to tie a lot of his economic policies to the issue of climate change, carbon taxing. He talks a lot about that in the book. I have skimmed a little bit of it, but not enough to speak really knowledgeably about what is inside. So I need to find some time to dig into it more. I would encourage you to do the same thing. Don't just take some streamer's word for it, because I've heard some things that I think are probably made up as well, and some things that are true about what he lays out in that book. And it goes back some years. He also has another book that he wrote, but it hasn't been released yet. As I understand it, it won't be released now until after the election. So just hard to say what's going to stick against any of these politicians as we get deeper into this election. The days are still early. And I came across this today too. A new party, the Future Party. They kicked off their campaign today. We have video of that. I've never heard of these guys before, but this is Dominic Carney. He has some political experience, and I believe out in the Maritimes. And he has secured the leadership of this new political party, the Future Party, which I know nothing about. Zip, zilch, nada, nothing. But here we are. Let's go to their kickoff. What they have to say. Dominic Carney.
Hey, thank you everyone for being here today for the official launch of the Canadian Future Party's first ever national election campaign. Couldn't ask for it to be in stranger times, but also times that are so important for the future of our country. That we've seen, I think, in the last few days, the need for a new party to address Canada's 21st century challenges. We've seen the need for a party that rejects extremism on the right and rejects ties to foreign and hostile states on the left. We've seen the need for boldness as we face a threat from a country that we once considered to be the closest of friends, and that in a world where democracy is very much on the back foot. The world that most of us over the age of 20 grew up with is done and dead and over. It's a new and difficult world that Canada is now facing, and we have to decide how we're going to confront it together. And we believe in the Canadian Future Party that if one thing is clear, it is that old ideas of the left and the right no longer make any sense. C'est clair, en 2025, que de dire que le gouvernement va gérer tous, c'est fou. L'idée que le gouvernement va diriger rien, également fou. Qu'est-ce qui se marche? Les programmes sociaux dirigés par un gouvernement, dans le contexte d'un marché aussi libre que possible, pour assurer qu'on a les investissements à diriger pour le bien-être des Canadiens et Canadiennes. Ça, c'est notre tâche comme un pays. Ça, c'est notre tâche comme cette partie.
Not on the left, not on the right.
Mais regarde, un pays, ça ne gère pas. Il se gouverne. Il se gouverne en fonction de mandats démocratiques octroyés par ses citoyens. Les électeurs n'élisent pas un conseil d'administration, mais un gouvernement. On a besoin de faire les changements nécessaires afin que les citoyens de notre pays sentent mieux représentés. Et pour cela, qu'on va adapter un système de représentation proportionnelle mixte, ainsi que des changements dans la manière que les caucus dans la Chambre des communes sont dirigés par les chefs de parti. On a besoin d'augmenter le pouvoir des citoyens de choisir les représentatives, et on a besoin aussi d'augmenter le pouvoir des membres de la Chambre des communes. Ils ne sont pas là pour être les machines de vote 4-5 ans. Ils sont là pour prendre les décisions, d'écouter aux citoyens et citoyennes et prendre les messages, et oui, des fois les messages difficiles à leurs chefs. Je pense que peut-être Mr. Trudeau aurait eu une fin.
Let's pull out of this. We'll get to some English. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, back
La
to
vérité,
English.
même quand c'était difficile. And that's why we're going to need a politics of boldness, a politics of ambition, and most importantly, a politics based on a return to an idea that sounds old-fashioned now, but is needed more than ever, a return to honesty in politics. And that used to be said by all politicians in all occasions.
What?
Of course,
What?
who wants a dishonest politics? But let's look at two recent examples. Mr. Carney, who I want to start by giving full credit for having started off on the right foot in taking a strong stand against the American administration and making it clear that Canada will not be pushed around. And I hope that message continues today with whatever bizarre announcement comes from the White House, adding on to the mountain of other bizarre announcements that sadly now wash over our politics. But we've seen that in contrast to that strength when it comes to the United States, a weakness when it comes to dealing with the single most dangerous government this world has ever seen, the Chinese Communist Party and its regime in Beijing. It has murdered more people, oppressed more people, disrupted international trade and security more than any other country since the Second World War. Why does our governing party continue to accept its ties with a government that shares none of our values of freedom, democracy, individual rights, and tolerance? So, Mr. Carney, my plea to you, stand up to Beijing the way you stand up to the Americans. Monsieur Poilievre, 3 candidates down yesterday. Soon he'll have to fire more candidates than we're going to be able to run in this election. If you don't have values at the heart of your vetting process for your candidates, you're not offering Canadians a valid alternative in government. When you say as a leader that no matter what happens, you will never impose restrictions in the face of a pandemic or public health outbreak, what you're doing is saying, not that you're serious about appealing to folks who crowded around Parliament Hill 3 years ago in the convoy. What you're doing is saying you're not serious. Because an H1N1 pandemic is spreading across the farms of the world right now, and 1 or 2 genetic changes and it reaches humans, and when that disease reaches humans, the fatality rate is 50%. Mr. Poilievre, are you seriously telling me you're going to let 50% of Canadians die as some sort of commitment to appealing to a chunk of your base that has more in common with the Americans destroying that great democracy than anything to do with Canadian values, history, or tradition? So, Mr. Poilievre, clean up your house. Expel those candidates who have spoken against science, against reason, against inclusive approach to politics that defends people regardless of who they are, who they love, and where they come from. C'est clair que notre parti.
Okay. So that gives you right away a pretty good sense of who that guy is. Let's take a look at their website. The Future Party. The future is forward. Canadian Future Party. Canadians deserve leaders, it says here, willing to stand up for our national defense. And we need ones who are willing to confront issues like our housing crisis, rising cost of living, and climate challenges. As the Canadian Future Party, we're working to bring everyone better and more powerful evidence-based solutions, ones that result in a stronger, united, and more prosperous future for all Canadians. And there he is, the leader, Dominic Carney, champions evidence-based solutions over political polarization. With extensive experience in international affairs and politics, he rises above populist politics to steer Canada away from extremism. His mandate? To focus on action and democracy, not empty rhetoric. Some of these things I like, some of these things I'm concerned about because I just don't know enough yet. Our policy, the Canadian Future Party is here, it says, to defend Canadians against our nation's greatest challenges. We offer fresh, no nonsense, and evidence based solutions developed by and for Canadians like you, from fixing the housing crisis to advancing climate resilience and our national defense. Our head on policies are designed to make democracy work for Canadians. Right now, period. Explore our ideas for driving Canada forward. Together, we're laying the foundation for a stronger, brighter future. And their colors are obviously black and gold. But I don't think they're any fan of Donald Trump, even though he's the one trying to usher in a golden era for the United States. What I'm hearing there is sort of the progressive wing of the Progressive Conservative Party, maybe, which is sort of liberal light. I don't know what really sets them apart that much, where they can justify calling themselves the Future Party, but I would imagine we'll find out more as the election goes on, or can find out more. We'll see how much attention they get and whether they're still around when the next election comes. Because as he said, the Conservatives have dumped more candidates in the last 24 hours or the last 48 hours than they're probably going to field in this entire election. So he said that as almost like he was bragging about it, but that's nothing to brag about, man. Anyway, maybe we'll get him on the show and have a conversation with him if I can get a hold of him. What else do we have for you tonight? Before we get to the phones. Oh, yes, Rachel Gilmore. You know, the journalist who worked at Global, ended up in that lawsuit with James Topp because of the white supremacist demarcation in the story that was done at Global about James Topp. He sued them. You may remember that lawsuit. Then, Rachel, on the left side of the political spectrum, very, very progressive. I have taken exception to a lot of the things that she has said over the years, especially since the pandemic, and especially during the pandemic. I strongly disagreed with a lot of what she said about lockdowns. That's just my personal opinion. I'm very opposed to locking people down and doing an end run around people's rights that way. It didn't mesh with any of the public emergency plans that I ever saw in all the years I worked as a mainstream journalist, but that's another story. Bottom line is here tonight, she, after having been let go from Global some time back, I can't remember how long it's been, I've lost track of time. She's been working sort of independently, getting some freelance stuff here and there. Just within the last couple of weeks, was offered a gig for the election doing fact-checking segments for CTV. Very, very small freelance position for the election only, as I understand it. But everything fell apart. And this is because, I guess, there was a lot of people phoning from the populist side of the political spectrum, just hammering CTV, complaining and flooding them with complaints. And as a result of that, CTV caved in and they canceled her segment. She didn't even get to do it. Now, they phoned her, left her a message. Well, they didn't leave her a message. She spoke to them on the phone as they told her, we're canceling this whole thing because there's just way too much backlash about having you come over here to work. And she recorded the call. We have the recording here.
My goal as the EP for the show is I'd just want to do election
Slow.
coverage.
Yeah,
And
100%.
Just, it's a critical election for Canadians. We've got Trump, we've got tariffs, we've got crazy amounts of information coming in, and we just want to be able to get that to people. But the who we're talking to is kind of drowning out what we're talking about right now. And I don't feel like we have the bandwidth to deal with it. So I feel terrible about doing this, but I'm just going to call down the segment that we were planning to do with you, because I just don't think we have the bandwidth to be able to keep the focus where we need to.
It's too bad. I wish that you guys had the bandwidth, because it is kind of utterly unfair.
It is, and I agree. I agree, and I feel terrible about it. I know, like I said, I know that we made an arrangement with you to do 4 appearances. I am willing to live up to the financial part of it. We do offer an expert fee, and I'm happy to pay that out because we're the ones canceling it if that helps in any way. I mean, and I also wanted to let you know we're not going to say anything publicly about not doing the segments, but I totally understand you have your followers and your viewers, and you need to say whatever you need to say to them. I would love to keep in touch down the road. I would love to keep the conversation just between you and I going, because I feel like, I like hearing what you have to say, and I think, maybe there is something down the road that we can do.
I appreciate that.
Are you interested? Do you want to invoice us for the appearances? Because I am more than happy to give you the standard expert fee for that. If you want to send us an invoice, I'm happy to do that.
Sure. Yeah, I will send that along. Thank you for that.
I see a lot of people cheering, happy about it. I'm not. I don't like to see any journalist. I don't like to see anybody lose their job. And I can tell you, just having worked in media all my life, it's really, really hard. It's very, very difficult. I'm not really in alignment with a lot of what Rachel Gilmore has said or does say. But like any person out there, she's not always wrong. She's not always right. A lot of the time I disagree pretty strongly, and I've been pretty vocal about it at times, but I don't want to see anybody lose their job. I remember when Sun TV, which was the TV version of the Toronto Sun newspaper, conservative, they folded. They went off the air because they couldn't get access to the Canadian cable system. So they couldn't make the network work in Canada. And a lot of people lost their jobs. And I saw people on the left cheering when all those guys lost their gig. That was years ago. From that, you actually ended up getting Rebel News, because Ezra Levant used to work there along with Brian Lilly, and they came over and they started Rebel News, which is what it is now today. But that was a very risky venture, starting Rebel News the way that they did. And I wasn't happy, but I was like, why are all these people cheering? People in the business, I was still working in media at that time, mainstream media at CTV, and I saw these people cheering about Sun TV being taken off the air because they couldn't make that work. And that's not right. I don't feel right about people on the left either. It's just no. If you believe in free speech, if you believe in freedom of media, what happened to her, that should be of real concern to you, because what just happened there is a group of political activists launched a campaign, a cancel culture campaign aimed at her. And it worked. They put pressure on CTV. It was an intimidation campaign of sorts, and she lost her gig. CTV caved. That should be what concerns you more than anything, that CTV caved in. the editorial staff over there made a decision that they were going to give in to a mob and bend the knee out of some sort of fear that they might lose clicks or views or what. Those people they probably get more views if they put her on, because people would love to hate watching her. Right? And she's got a big following. She does. I don't see how they could lose by putting her on, frankly, because she would be so controversial, but I don't know what they were thinking. I don't think editorial decisions should be made based on intimidation. And I don't like to see it. And I don't like to see anybody lose their job, even if it's somebody that I largely would not align with politically, because she's pretty extreme in a lot of her views. Pretty extreme, but she's not always wrong. And that's not to say people on the other side, in my view, are always right either. Even people, so it's always shades of gray. And strangely, I see people with their opinions overlapping all the time from both sides of the political spectrum. I mean, you think about where we're at even right now. You have environmentalists setting electric cars on fire. And you have MAGA supporters, Trump people who were avid anti-EV people, and Trump, because they were listening to Trump say that EVs don't go far and don't work in the cold and we don't need them. And now he's hawking EVs, Teslas on the White House lawn, and it's the MAGA people who are defending the guy who's building the electric cars, while the environmentalists who used to support him are setting them on fire in protest now, because the world has been turned, well, it was upside down, now it's turned inside out as well. So don't tell me that these things don't change and there's not overlap, and sometimes people end up in bed together because, as they say, politics often makes strange bedfellows. The next thing you know, the freedom people are going to be literally in bed with the Antifa people and the BLM, and then everybody will be happy. I don't know how that's going to come about, but if the environmentalists are torching Tesla dealerships, I suppose anything is possible. What a wacky, wacky world. I'll be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
After all, what fun would it be if we would sit here and do a political show and everybody just agreed with everybody all the time? You might as well go to just about any other podcast out there. If you're here, you know that half the audience loves to hate me. So I'm living proof that bringing somebody in that's controversial or runs against the grain might not always be such a bad thing, but we always have interesting conversations here, and the time to do that is upon us again, because we're about to go to the phones. That being said, let me get this queued up here, and here's the number to call. Okay, Mavericks, it's call-in time. Join the conversation. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Exercise your right to free speech. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Call 1-647-734-4220. Then enter the PIN number 860-075-764, followed by the pound sign. Maverick News. Call now. The world is watching and listening to you. Just an observation, too, about that Future Party news conference. Those guys need a media consultant because the lighting was atrocious. They were lighting from low and from the side, and it made them look like they were in a horror movie or something. I don't know if you picked up on it, but the lighting was stark enough and so poorly positioned and so harsh that it was casting shadows that made it look scary. Wrong look. 100% the wrong look. Okay, let's go to our first caller of the night. It's a surprise, like a box of chocolates. It's the Forrest Gump call-in show. What flavor of chocolate do we have on the air? Who's with us?
You got the flavored chocolate with almonds.
It's our French Donald Trump, direct from Montreal. Hello, Dragon. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great.
Excellent.
At least I'm still kicking.
Good. And I'm glad you're here because we did talk about having you on tonight to give us your assessment of the Quebec healthcare system, because you went to see a doctor yesterday, and you kind of went through the whole system at that level. So I'm very interested to know what your experience was like. Where do you want to begin?
Well, I would say that it was an interesting one because, okay, everything went from 3 days ago. I was feeling kind of weird, so I, started to be concerned about my health. So I wanted to call 811 like everyone would do normally. So I call 811, talk with
stop
that
for a second,
nurse.
because what's 811?
Yep.
Is that the emergency number?
No, actually, 811 is a health kind of advice or advisory service, which there's a nurse behind the phone that will assess your symptom, and from there, she's gonna tell you if you need to go to the ER right away or.
Okay, I didn't know that Quebec had that. So you have a telehealth system of sorts where you can phone in on a telephone and speak to a nurse or a nurse practitioner of some kind by dialing 811 in Quebec.
Yeah. Well, I think there's most Canada has that same service, but I mean, don't quote me on that. But I did a little research on the subject, and everyone in Canada surely has a 811 service too. So anyway, I called the 811, and just so you know, guys, my real name is Ian, so it's 4-letter IANN. So basically, it's nothing has to do with what's gonna come next. So,
and you're right. I just looked it up. It is. I didn't even know this in Ontario. I didn't know that we had 811 hooked up. That shows how out of touch I am. Okay, thank you for that. Now, if I'm dying, I'll know what to call.
All right.
Sorry to interrupt you, but go ahead.
Oh, no trouble. So after calling at 811, I speak with the healthcare service person behind the wheel. And, she assessed my symptom, get my assurance card number and information so I can have an appointment for the next day. So the 1st of April Fool. And it's not a joke that you want to have. As an April Fool, I will tell you. So she booked me under the name of Christopher. I don't know what's last name, but the first name of the person I was booked on was Christopher. Mind you, my name again is Ian. So big mistake here, right? So that's from the 811 service. So that, I mean, on the first glance, I'm not making any sense of the email that they send you at some point in time, so you can get that appointment. But anyway, to make that short, I go to the clinic where I was having my appointment right in time. Speak with that lady on the receptionist about the appointment, and she goes like, "Well, I don't have your name on the system." So I'm like concerned because my name is not on the system of their computer. So I'm like, I'm at the right place. This is and I show my phone with the email or the SMS from the 811 service. So she look at it and she sees that the name was in fact Christopher, and she kind of messed up with my first name.
Okay, well, that's kind of weird. That must be human error of some kind.
Yeah, well, it's not the first time that it happened that she told me. So she had to kind of rebook basically under my name.
Okay.
And surely 30 minutes later, I was checked up by the doctor and got another appointment for later. But, I would say someone that has a problem, like a real urgent problem and needs to go to the ER, if they don't kind of take the problem properly and that person go back home with that problem and sort out the problem, this is a problem, I think.
Well,
and that person could die.
So that's kind of weird. They screwed up your name and then they had to correct it when you checked in. At least they had the system in place where they caught that, because the next thing you know, you're in there getting some other guy's operation and they're doing a brain transplant. They've changed your mind and you come out feeling like a whole new person.
Yep. And I mean, for those ladies at the clinic, I mean, those people were amazing pearls. And I mean, if one of them listened to us, I mean, kudos to you guys, because perfect way to handle the whole thing. It took like 5 minutes just to handle the whole thing. And when they realized that 811 has messed up and it was not the first time, they kind of, oh, okay, we get it. So just don't mind. We're gonna get your name into it, and just sit down, relax. Doctor's gonna see you in about a few minutes, and there you go. But I mean, it could have resolved in other situation, probably in other way, and that person could probably need that medical attention right away, right? So
maybe. So how long did you have to wait before you actually got in to see the doctor?
Oh well. At that point, I was sitting on my on the chair, and probably 30 minutes later, I was already looked at. So,
oh well, that's pretty good. So you went in on time, and they took you in pretty much on schedule.
Yep.
And
well, I was there about like say 15 minutes in advance, but yeah, by the time that they sort out the whole thing and put me on the roll. I was good to go.
Okay, so you saw the doctor, and did he have a good bedside manner? What was the experience like? This is a doctor you have not seen before, correct?
Yeah, it's not a doctor I've ever seen. Actually, that's the matter. I've been 10 years waiting for having my own family doctor or a practitioner that will be assessed to my dossier. So it's kind of a rub also. To add to my frustration.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of people in Canada still do not have a family doctor. That's a big issue. I'm among those without a family doctor. I haven't had one in, a long time, 15 plus years, easily, maybe 20. But I've never really had a problem. I'm always able to get in to see a doctor at a walk-in clinic, which is essentially what you just went through, right? Was this the equivalent of a walk-in clinic that you saw a doctor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was what we call a 24-hour clinic. Basically, it's like you put your name on the RSVQ, basically, which is the equivalent of Quebec Healthcare. and they assess you to a clinic in the surrounding of your region, basically, and on an appointment in the 24 hours following that assessment that you're trying to get to have an appointment. So,
and so for our
basically,
U.S.
it's that.
viewers and listeners, healthcare is a provincial jurisdiction. They have domain over how healthcare is handled and administered in Canada. So in Ontario, where I live, we have a bit of a different system than they have in Quebec. Every province has their own system. So now, Dragon, when you went in to see this doctor through this walk-in clinic, did you have about a 15-minute appointment window in which to talk to the doctor? That's what we have here in Ontario. They basically divvy it up into 15-minute blocks of time. Is that about what you had?
Yeah, that was about the walk-off time. It's assessed my symptom, get checked manually or visually by the doctor where you need to be checked, and assess the diagnose, and you're good to go with a prescription or X-rays or whatever you need to go get. So,
and so now, after your assessment, you don't have to get into what your medical condition is if you don't want to. But was it necessary for him to refer you to any kind of specialist? Is there a follow-up appointment to come out of your appointment from yesterday?
Yeah, actually, on the 21st of this month, I got a echography to look at, because I'm not sure, but I'm probably having a what you call an hernia. So basically, that's painful and uncomfortable at some times. So I got to be careful not to bruise myself or to make to use my strength too much and force too much, because it could
get very
it
serious.
could open more. Mm-hmm.
That could get very painful. I hope you're not in too much pain tonight.
Oh no, I'm pretty good. As we speak, there's probably a bit of a pressure where it's hurt, but it's not it's not really hurting. It's just a bit of pressure, but I'm pretty well, and I'm still kicking. So no worry, guys. God still, I've promised me to stay here so I can continue my job.
So he's referred you to a specialist. Did they give you any indication how long it will take for you to actually see the specialist?
Actually, I did went for the specialist was in the same building, so for the X-rays or scan or whatever it is, I will have to see him for the 21st. So basically, I will have that echography and other scan that needs to be done, and at that point, on the 22nd, that's the next day. I'll have the checkup with the same, actually the checkup with that doctor, so he can assess the situation and tell me what to do next. So
okay, so I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that because I was doing three things at once.
So that's gonna be
how quick?
Basically,
how fast?
So
when's your next appointment, or do you know yet?
But hey, I'm in good. I'm in good shape.
Yeah,
Almost.
But when are you seeing the specialist? I'm not clear. Do you have an appointment, or is he going to call you? Dragon? Are you still there? Dragon? Are you there, Dragon?
Yep, I'm still there.
Okay, so how long will it be before you see the specialist? A week, a month?
About 20 days.
20 days, okay.
Yep.
All right, well, by Canadian standards, that's actually not too bad. That's pretty good to get in to see a specialist within 3 weeks. Some specialists, it can take upwards of a year. So I know that it depends on what the availability of certain doctors is in your particular area. So you're doing okay, I guess, in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah, well, at least I will know with the scan or echography or whatever they're gonna take.
Yeah.
I'll know at least what I have. So from there, we'll see what kind of how big the problem is. But you know what? I'm still good, and don't worry about that.
So now here's the next question. Did they charge you any fees?
No.
No?
There's no fee about that.
So here in Ontario, within the last year and a half, I guess, they've started to charge a fee at the one walk-in clinic where I go. It's how much is it? I think it's $30 to go into that walk-in clinic now because they weren't able to cover all their expenses. I have to remember what the fee is. I could look it up here while we're online, but you weren't charged any fees at all, which I think it's a lot of clinics here in Ontario still there is no fee, but some are now charging a fee to cover some of their expenses here, because you'd think that they make a lot of money, but I guess it's not as easy to run a clinic and make money with it as people might think.
Yeah. Which I'm wondering now how much it's going to cost me probably for the x-rays or other scan that they might do. But
they generally don't charge for that stuff, do they?
I don't know. I'm not sure about that, so I will do my research on this one.
Yeah, I don't think that they charge a fee.
I don't think so too. But always good to check.
Yes.
Always make sure, guys.
Yeah. And so just give us your overall assessment of what your walk-in clinic experience was like yesterday. It sounds like it was overall pretty good, except that they messed up your name somehow. But other than that, you got in, they took you in on time. You were in within a half an hour. You got to see the doctor. He referred you to a specialist. You get a follow-up appointment within 3 weeks. And then away you go to the races, I guess.
Yeah, well, at the clinic, 5 on 5 stars. The clinic was fine. I love them. They always treated me good because actually I knew that clinic. It was not my first time there. But lovely service. But at the 811 point, 2 stars out of 5. I'm sorry, guys, but messed up my name this way. No can do, guys. You could have messed up somebody else's life or health pretty greatly at that point if that would have not resolved in other ways.
And I just looked up the clinic where I go here in Ontario, in my town, and it's $20. That's what it costs me every time I go there now. So you have to pay that up front. They have a discounted fee. If you go all the time, you can pay like a flat rate, and you can go as many times during the year, I guess, as you feel you need to. But I don't do that because I don't go like 50 times a year. I go, occasionally when I need to. Well, thank you for that, Dragon. That was, I think that was helpful and insightful.
Yeah, guys, I would just give you an advice if that happened to you. Don't panic. Just look at the lady at the counter. Tell her that you're in pain and you need assessment. And if you got your phone with the email or the text message that the 811 has provided to you, show her your phone with the text message. And from there, I'm pretty sure that the person will look at it and basically make 1 and 1 plus 2 and do the thing and just put you on the roll, and you'll be good to go for your appointment.
Yeah, make sure that that you don't get Christopher's appointment. Otherwise, you'll come out with a whole new brain and a whole new frame of mind. Who else is on the line with us tonight? Who's there?
Oh, yeah.
Hello, who's there?
Oh, my name's Libby.
Who is it?
Libby.
Well, Leo, I don't want to hear Libby tonight. It's just a little over the top for me, sir.
Well, I'll tell you what's happening here, Mr. Rick. Okay,
Yeah.
In Windsor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now Chrysler's they closed down Chrysler's from April 7th to the 14th. Okay, and a lot of people are scared. They think it's the tariff. It's not. It's like people are on Facebook and stuff. Okay, messaging, retooling, right? And they do this, you know anything about the big three, right? And people, oh no, they're not retooling. I know people on the line. Okay, now what happens in the big three? If they start something at the front of the line, okay, it affects everything. You can't do nothing. If it starts something at the end of the line, which is body and paint, is the end cycle of the big three at Chrysler's, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it stops the front of the line, so the whole line's down for a week, I think week or 2 weeks actually, right? So people that are saying, "Oh no, it's the tariffs," don't believe that, okay? Because I know people on the line, okay, that are working there, and it has nothing to do with the tariffs. Now, as for the tariffs, I don't know what to make of it because there are no tariffs, not on the big three sector, right? My understanding is what I watched today was the USMCA. Anybody who stays in compliancy with that, you're not going to have any tariffs. Well, the big three are already there.
I reported that like days ago because when he signed that a week ago, the fact sheet was out then, and I found that and I reported on it then. And it's not, it doesn't apply. It basically nullifies the 25%.
Right. So what really happened in my business now, everybody's going, what about tool and die, tool and mold? Okay, now Hamilton, Hammertown's a steel town. We all know that if you're in Ontario, okay, and in Quebec, they got the aluminum mills there, right? Well, in my business, tool and die, tool and mold, 95% of our steel comes from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Okay, we order it from Michigan, and that's been that way for ever since I've been in this trade. Okay, now Hammertown is going to get hit with the steel tariff. Okay, if they get hit with the steel tariff, it's going to be stamping places, production places that stamp out car parts. Okay, because they get their steel from Hamilton. Now, if you're buying the steel like us that comes from Grand Rapids, well, there's no tariff on it, right? I don't know what to make of it.
I don't even know if that would apply because if the tariffs are on steel, but if you get your steel domestically in Canada, then make a car part out of it, I think that car part would then qualify for exemption under the USMCA. So it wouldn't have additional tariffs. It would be treated as a finished car part, a component, which meets the North American standards. I don't know. I don't know how that works. Car parts maybe it would apply. I don't know.
Maybe. You'd have to look into it, Rick, because I don't know either. Because if the steel's coming from America, okay, then there shouldn't be any tariff on it at all. But if the steel's coming from Canada, like Hamilton, a lot of it they mine it there or they mill it there, right? They got the big foundries and everything there.
And then how do you even prove that the steel that the component was made out of comes from either Canada or the US? You could have Chinese steel, and it's not like it. You can't tell when
it's going to be interesting. Product. Yeah, there's going to be so much crooked shit going on at the border because nobody knows, right?
Not only that, they're not going to know. They don't know. I bet you know. At midnight tonight, you can't tell me that they're going to have all of this stuff laid out in their computers so that when the stuff gets to the border, they're going to know what to charge people. It's going to be chaos there at midnight.
I heard it's chaos there now. A friend of mine crossed the border, and he owns a aluminum fencing company. So he went and bought $100,000 worth of aluminum because that's where he buys it in Michigan, right?
Yeah.
And sent the truck over, everything else. So he's already across the border, but he said it's a nightmare there. Okay, going to the States. Okay, this is the big money at customs. Okay, and brokering, right? Going to the States. They're charging you, okay, let's say you're bringing over a bottle of booze from Canada, right? They're already on it. They're on it, okay? And they're calling it like duty excises tax, right? Yeah. But they're stopping everybody. It's not like it was before where me growing up, I'd go over to the malls in Detroit and I'd buy 10 pairs of pants and 10 shirts and come back to the border. Nobody ever stopped you for it, right?
Yeah.
That shit's all changed, right? They want their end. It's big money at the end of the day, Rick. It's all about dollars and cents with these guys.
Gangsters. So. Yeah.
Well, who's that?
I say gangsters. Gangsters.
Hey, it no different. It's no different from crime families, what we're watching, right? Mm-hmm. And the stuff with Carney now, I don't know what's going to happen with him because everything that he's been hoping for, unfortunately, I'm going to say hoping for, and that was a tariff war with Donald Trump, was the ammo for his arsenal for this election. Now that's gone out the window.
Maybe, yeah, it could be. It
right?
certainly it seems to have been deflated a lot today. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I caught the tail end while you were showing the in and out of your show tonight, right? Where the you were showing Peter Poilievre's rallies. They're just massive. Okay, compared to anybody else. Okay, they're massive. So I'm not saying that all those people are from Kingston. Obviously, they're not. Okay, the people are coming from Toronto to see them. So it's like a rock concert for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
But then you showed what was it? Carney? Carney's interview. Okay, the presser he was having after. Okay, because he took another day off from rallying for his election over this tariff stuff, and the media blitzed him so hard. Okay, at the end. Okay, because there's questions, man, and people want answers, right? And this guy just walks away. It's like, man, he's got to.
Well, I don't think he knows. I think he's as confused as anybody else. He's got, I think anybody right now just has sort of surface level, minimal information about what's really going to happen. Because at the end of this process, as we get closer to midnight, I don't think they know. I think they're probably still sitting there doing, the numbers on computers to get them out to these border guys,
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And you don't want anybody fudging anything up either, right? You want to be, I don't know, as clear as possible you can with the people, especially right now with all the shit that's going on with the MP there, Chang, okay, and the bullshit there with Tay that just happened the other day, right? That's yesterday's news, but that's not going away. Okay, and it's not going away at all. And the same thing with Mark McKenzie. Okay, I know Mark McKenzie personally, right? You got to watch what you say. Really, I'm one to talk. Okay, I'm not in your chats because I'm blocked from your chats. Okay, you got to watch what you say to people. I like to be as comical as I can with people because the price of laughter for me is a lot better than the price of unhappiness. Okay, and I like to make people laugh.
In his
but
case,
then you cross the line.
that was from how long ago was that podcast?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. And the crazy thing about Mark, I know him, I know his family. Actually, I did a little interview with him in the summertime, and he wasn't the candidate yet, but we could see he was going to be the candidate, right? He was in the running and looked good for him, right? And he's a city councilman. So this is not done with Mark McKenzie. He might lose his job as a city councilman for Windsor.
Right. Yeah, I saw that yesterday. We reported on that too. So, and that's because he made a joke about the death penalty for Trudeau.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's like me. I do this Libby thing. Everybody seems to like it. Okay, out of 20 people, 18 like it, 2 don't. I don't care about the other 2. It's the 18 that I'm making laugh. Okay. And I use humor, right? Now, could that come and haunt me? Let's say, okay, yeah, I can, because I said it online, this and that. But if I was sitting in Saturday Night Live in New York City and doing Libby the Liberal, that would be funny as hell. I'd have elbows up, okay, like Mike Myers, okay. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. There's a fine line, I guess, between comedy and I don't know. People take things serious, right? And it's pretty sad.
Well, these days, Mark McKenzie said. Sorry, go ahead. What was that about Mark?
Yeah, from what Mark McKenzie said, okay, and how he said it was in a podcast, and he was joking. There is no, we know there's no gallows here. There's no death penalty, which is a joke right off the hops. And you just say, yeah, you should get the death penalty. Well, there's no death penalty here. And they just started rattling off names of people like Bernardo that should get the death penalty, this and that. And he threw in Justin Trudeau, right? And they laughed. Everybody laughed about it that were in the podcast, right? Thought it was funny, right? But it came to haunt them, man. And unfortunately, they're not done with them. They're going to be still sticking them right to the end.
Politics is a blood sport.
Pardon?
Politics is a blood sport.
Oh, it is. Okay, Eric Kreismedic or whatever his name is on the east side too. I know him. Now he's running for the Liberals, this and that, and Greg LeMay. I know people that are in his campaign and everything, right? And I'm like, man, really.
Let me ask you this, and Dragon, you can answer this question too. Around here, when I drive around, I don't see any signs up. except for the conservative candidate in my particular riding. It doesn't look like any of the other parties were ready for this election at all. I'm not even sure if the Liberals have a candidate here. I haven't heard a name. I can't find a name. Maybe one will emerge. I'd be surprised if they don't get somebody to run. But what's going on in your riding? Do you see all the parties with signs up at this point?
Well,
You go first, Dragon. Yeah.
In my part of Montreal, remember the other night, actually, when you showed us Jack Meat Think in Montreal posting some signs. It was about 2 minutes away from my place, and I did recognize the place just with the camera panel. So yeah, I see around here only NPDs.
I'm seeing a little bit of both. I have a conservative sign on my lawn, but yeah, I didn't even ask them to come. Right? They just, I don't know how they did it, but they found out where I lived and they threw a sign up on my damn lawn. Right? I'm happy with it, but it is the fastest election. I don't know about you, Rick, but I think this is the fastest snap election I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, and then people are not ready for it. When people are getting the boot in the 11th hour, okay, you got what do they got until Wednesday? They're the 7th, okay. So they could change up candidates to the 7th. So let's say you're a new guy coming in, like they haven't even Victor Green. You know who he is,
yeah,
Rick?
PPC. Yeah.
Okay. Well, now he's going with the Conservative Party, right?
Oh, he's
on
the
the east side,
Conservative candidate.
Well, this is the funny thing about it. They got till the 7th to pick. So everybody's going, okay, well, they're emailing the conservative, whatever, right? Whoever gets the most emails wins, right? They got till the 7th to pick. Well, this election's on the 28th. That's 21 days later.
Yeah.
So you got to get signage out. That's why you're not seeing signs for a lot of people, because like you said, you don't even know who the Liberal is. Essex just got a guy named Sutton. Okay, Chris Sutton. He's wearing a black Stetson cowboy hat, and he's like a cowboy. He's a Liberal. His last name's Sutton, not Dutton. If you know anything about the Yellowstone, okay, far from a Dutton. He's a Sutton, right? But he's playing it off as a cowboy, and I'm like, you gotta be joking me. So they're just throwing people in the mix. I've never seen anything like it in my life. It's comical. That's what it is.
As long as they don't start taking their political opponents to the train station.
Well, you said it, not me. That's a good one.
It's getting that nasty out there. So
that made me laugh, Rick. That really made me laugh, because with all the shit going on here, Chang wanted to send pay to the Chinese train station.
Oh my,
that's funny. But the shit that we're seeing, right? You see that Chang guy now. The difference between McKenzie and Chang was a cop for 28 years or 30 years. He knows the law. You know when you cross that line, right? And there's criminal intent there, because when you got protesters that are being locked up for mischief for honking their horns in Ottawa, and you got this dude over here, okay, that's advocating to put somebody in the back of a trunk to the consulate for $1 million. People are hungry in Canada for $1 million, man. Okay, I know people in Vancouver for $500 that'll wipe you out for $500. So what would they do for $1 million, Rick?
Well, I don't know, but if I were you, I'd be looking for a better class of people to be hanging out with. If you know,
I'm just telling you, that's a going rate in Vancouver. If you're going to rub somebody out, there's kids out there fucking. It's already been it's documented by CBC, and they've done interviews with people, right?
Yeah,
that's a going rate. It's scary. You put $1 million bounty on somebody's head that gets the what do we say? The libbies out there, okay? Their minds just keep rolling. What could it go?
Well, the Conservatives have lost, 5 candidates now, I think, in total, right? 5?
Yeah, and I know the Liberals, too, for sure. That Keeper, that guy, I think he was Edmonton, right? Keeper was first to go, and then Chang. And it's all this Chinese interference with Trudeau and everything else. And then you had Dong. Remember Dong?
Yeah.
Okay, he was over the Chinese interference. He was the first to go, but now he's an independent. So we're still paying this guy. And then we got Chang, right? So they know there was 11, So now we're down to 9 because 2 of them are already gone and they're liberals.
And there's something going on with India and the influence they had over Poilievre's rise to the leadership. The CSIS came out and released information at RCMP and said that they had this information about India helping the Poilievre campaign during the leadership race. So that's what helped him become the leader there. So I don't think we've heard the last of that either. And I said before, the Liberals had something up their sleeves, and I think that was one of the cards that has now been played. It didn't seem to get too much traction, but I think it's still kind of out there in the background. And then there's this story about the Bermuda tax avoidance. I wouldn't say evasion. I don't think it's necessarily illegal, but it's raising these questions at this point about, Mark Carney's commitment to Canada. But I don't know how that's going to play out either. I understand that at Brookfield, as an executive, he has a fiduciary duty to the clients that trumps everything else that he was doing at that time. So he's obligated to do what is in the best interests of his clients. But I don't even know how much direct involvement he would even have had or knowledge directly with setting up these companies in Bermuda. But I would think if you have three different entities, businesses, all registered at that same address in Bermuda, and there's billions of dollars in play, he had to have some knowledge. And then I think that does give rise to some concerns about his commitment to doing what is right for Canada. And if not an ethical violation in whole, it still maybe raises larger questions for all of us as Canadians. Should we be really pushing for tougher laws to prevent companies from being set up like that as sort of a tax haven for big money investors?
Yeah, I don't know what to make of all of it, Rick. It's moving so fast. This is Donald Trump would say warp speed. That's what's going on here. Like the shit's piling up so high, it's like semi-scandal after scandal after scandal. The shit with Pierre Poilievre too, you're just talking about the election could be election interference in his own party.
Yes.
If I do remember, it was Patrick Brown, right? I thought Patrick Brown was going to be the winner of that one.
Yeah,
right?
he's I don't know, Patrick Brown, he always seems to have skeletons in the closet, things behind him, and yet he still clings to power. But that's because I think he has just he has something going on there with certain groups of people in
well, that's another thing. You just
area.
mentioned it, and you hit it right on the nail right on the head. Skeletons in the closet. You show me anybody, okay? I don't care who you are. We're all born, okay, and we all sin. You show me anybody that's clean, especially in politics. You could find the dirt on people. Now, I got this guy running in Windsor West. His name's Gil Benhender. He's the East Indian guy, but he's a retired Windsor police officer. And I've talked to this guy for an hour in the last week, okay? He's calling me, right? Because he knows I could pump out on social media good things about him, right? I said, I don't know nothing about you, Gil, so let's find out, right? So I've been digging around the guy, and there's no dirt on this guy. There's no social media background or anything. This guy he's playing it smart, right? He's never had a Facebook page until this election, right? And he's a guy, I'm 55, so he's maybe a couple years older than me, right? He's part of the boomer, but he's, like I said, he's a cop. And then we got Richard Pollock, who's the ex-prosecutor, or he's still, I don't know if he's still a prosecutor, but he's a prosecutor with the Crown's office, right? So you got a ex-cop, that locked the criminals up and did his job, okay, put them in handcuffs, brought them to the jail cells, and you got Richard Pollock, who's the Crown prosecutor, who lets these guys right out the door, right, to do it all over again.
The strangest thing about this election is the PPC has the most candidates registered in ridings at this point heading into this election. They will have until Wednesday. By far, they have the most candidates registered in ridings, and yet they are not in a position to win the election. They're not polling well. I think the conservatives, people can say what they want about the polls, but I think it is true that the conservatives have pulled a lot of the support away from the PPC at this point, and Poilievre has galvanized a lot of that support at the expense of the PPC. But the conservatives don't have as many candidates running as the PPC. But that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if the PPC gets somebody elected this time, just because they may have candidates running where the other parties don't have the strong, like the Liberals or the Conservatives might not have a winner in place there, and it might allow a PPC candidate to come up the middle or from the side or in the back door and get in. I wouldn't be surprised, just because of the way it's working out.
They'll fill those seats. There's an ask for every seat. Okay, it's like a car.
Maybe
used car salesman.
They don't have much
right. There's an ask for every seat. They're just waiting for the 11th hour to fill that seat, right?
Yeah,
but it's like I said, man. I've never seen anything like this in my life. Okay, when it comes to politics, I've been following politics a long time, man. This is some crazy times, and the dirt that's coming out. What happens if the dirt comes out after the 7th? You can't get rid of the guy after the 7th or Wednesday. When's the deadline? Is it Wednesday or?
I don't know. You tell me. I'm not sure, but it's
what happens to the people that already voted? Okay, you voted for McKenzie on the East End in the early. A guy from work voted for McKenzie the other day.
Are the polls open? You've got early polls open now?
Well, he did. Yeah, he said he already voted for McKenzie. What happens to my vote, Leo? I said, I don't know. Look it up online. I've never heard anything like it in my life.
Really?
Right? Does his vote go to a conservative, the next incumbent for the Conservatives?
Yeah.
Whoever that is, because we don't know. Have you ever seen anything like this, Dragon?
No, I think it's the first time that there's something unprecedented here. But I mean, at the same time, I will probably draw an analogy with what happened when we had our first lady prime minister at some point, but because of the prorogation and all that. But at the end of the day, there's something unprecedented here, and I think that there's a big flip.
Yeah, Leo, I don't think that's correct. I don't think that people are voting yet. I just looked up the information. I'm not sure for sure what the exact date is, but I don't think advanced polls open until April 18th. So
and he's bullshitting me, and I'm going to call him on it tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe he was involved with the party and voted for the guy as part of the selection process to run and represent.
Oh, you know what? I think that he is part of the party because he is doing
through the EDA or the riding association. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
I can tell you, I have worked an election with Elections Canada. I was a poll supervisor in one election because they hire temporary workers, and this was a couple of elections back. And I would say at this point, they're still probably hiring people and training people in preparation for the election. They don't even have the staff in place to run the polls yet.
Well, in the social media ban that's going to, like, it's a blanket around all of them.
Yeah.
Okay, Carney's not having anything to do with it. Pierre Poilievre, okay, I was surprised because Joe Rogan invited him. He's a fan of Poilievre, right? Joe Rogan, this and that, right? And big podcasters out there, but he won't do it. But he went on the Mulrooney show today, Ben Mulrooney radio show.
Yes.
Right. And did a podcast on there with Ben Mulrooney. And I'm like, really? I don't get it. And then you see guys like Shadow Davis have been advocating for Pierre Poilievre. It's saying if you're voting for Max Bernier, it's a split vote. Get away from Max Bernier, put all your support. And he's been saying this for 2 months now. Mm-hmm. Shadow Davis. Mm-hmm. He went to the rally in Winnipeg the other day, and they threw him out. They wouldn't let him in. He's an agitator, known agitator. And he says, what are you talking about, an agitator? His whole platform's about the Conservatives. Mm-hmm. Right, so they're saying they're trying to stay as honkered down away from social media because, like I said, the Windsor West wants to come on and let me do an interview of him so people get to know who he is, and I don't think that's going to happen because they got a gag order. Stay away from it, right? So
I
They're trying
find
to play it
the
safe.
conservatives are very difficult to deal with. They generally, it's hard to get a conservative on the program because they're very, very strict about who they'll even let their candidates associate with. Politics in Canada is different than it is in the United States. And as much as some people might think that Poilievre would benefit by going on Joe Rogan, overall he might, but it's very polarizing, and they need the part of the progressive vote in order to win the election. So they're playing it very, very
Safe.
safe.
I call
Yeah, that's a word. Strategic, I think, is probably a better word. They're being strategic about it.
Well, you don't want to get rubbed with the brush of the 51st state or even brushing elbows with Donald Trump at this point, either party, right?
Yes, yeah.
And that's, I think, what would happen if he went on Rogan or did, what's his name, the other big guy there on YouTube,
Patrick
PDS?
Davis, that guy?
Yeah, the PDS, Paul. Yeah, that guy, right? If he did those shows, because Trump, there's a connection to Trump in those shows, obviously. Big connection, right? That's how he got a lot of his support, was through the social media aspect of it. But I've never seen anything like it, Rick. I got to get back to work, but I just wanted to say, good show, but we ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, it's far from over.
Get your popcorn ready the next 26 days, buddy. It's gonna be hilarious. So and just try and joke as much as you can about it, because if you take it serious, and there's a lot of people out there taking it serious, they're vandalizing other people's signs and everything else. And if the liberals win, we're gonna bring up arms, and don't even go there, really. Okay, just be as humorous as you can about it, because it's all going to sort itself out.
It's always temporary because there's always another election. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, man, right. Even my own brother, he's a liberal diehard, man. I'm like, fuck, man, really? Should see that, right? And he's like, he wants to come on over for dinner. If I come over to your house for dinner, you probably won't have any teeth to eat desserts. Right? That's the way I am.
Yeah, well, thank you for the call tonight, Leo. Good call. Good conversation.
Bye, guys. See you, Dragon. Good luck with your test, buddy.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Hopefully it's nothing.
You know what? I'm a strong guy. I'll be healthy in a bit.
You got it, buddy. Good night.
See ya.
Good night.
Okay, Dragon.
Sure.
I have a special story to close the program off with tonight. But before I get to that, I'll throw it over to you for a final thought, and then I'll queue up this story and share that with people. So any final word this evening before we do that?
Well, I will say to my good friend, in adversity, always stay stoic and laugh at the face of death.
Well, I'm glad it didn't get to be quite that grave for you at the walk-in clinic. And thanks for letting us know about the 811 number. I'm going to look into that more in case I ever need a medical intervention for some sort of a medical mishap on my end. I appreciate the call very much tonight, and for the assessment of the Quebec medical system. Sir Dragon.
Well, it's my pleasure, guys. Have a good one.
Okay. And that's Dragon in Montreal. Now, as I said, I have this special report tonight because, what was it, 2 nights ago? I guess it was, we had my dad on, right, for his birthday interview. And my mom was talking in the background, and it just kind of came up. I don't remember exactly how, but she was talking about growing up in the town of Dresden, Ontario, which is just up the highway from me. And she started talking about how Japanese people, when she was a kid during World War II, were hiding out at the Dresden fairgrounds. And I wasn't sure what to make of that. I'd heard stories about Japanese Canadians living in this area during World War II, but I really didn't know the whole story. Well, she kind of was misremembering, and I was making some assumptions, and I I said something, and this is why I'm doing it tonight, because I want to set the record straight, or more accurately, set the history straight. Because I said that the Japanese people who were hiding out at the fairgrounds must have been doing that because they were trying to avoid capture so that because they were afraid they would be sent to internment camps. Because as many of you may know, during World War II, after Pearl Harbor, Japanese Canadians were sent to internment camps because there was so much paranoia and prejudice and bigotry and racism. Well, that wasn't really the story. Not really. I have the story for you queued up tonight. I took a trip and I went up to the fairgrounds to find out really what the story was back in World War II. It isn't quite that they were hiding there. The story is a tale, not a tale. It's a story, a tragedy that was told thousands of times over across Canada during World War II because of the way Japanese Canadians were treated after Pearl Harbor. So for the accurate story, I did the research, I went to the scene to the site of the fairgrounds. Today, the Dresden Fairgrounds are still there. Still there, a little different than they were back in World War II, but still there. There's a harness racing track, an arena. They do the fair there every year. I've got the whole thing laid out for you. Here's a more accurate assessment. And it's an important story, especially given what's going on right now with a lot of people calling for mass deportations, fears about immigration, fears about the other, people who are not like you or not like me. This is a story that needs to be told right now more than ever as a reminder of how easy it is for people to go down a very dark and wrong path, I would say. I hope that this helps us all remember the past so we can learn from the past so we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. Here's the more accurate version of the story of the Japanese Canadians who came to Dresden, Ontario in exile. Welcome to Dresden, Ontario, a quiet farming town along the Sydenham River, known today for its agricultural roots. But in the summer of 1942, this very spot, the Dresden Fairgrounds, held a hidden chapter of Canadian history, a story of resilience, injustice, and redemption.
Your commentator is Joe O'Brien.
It began after Pearl Harbor when fear and racism swept Canada.
Here is the motion picture record released by the United States Navy of the havoc wrought by the Japs' sneak sky and sea raid on Pearl Harbor, America's mid-Pacific naval bastion. On December 7th, 1941, Japan, like its infamous Axis partners, struck first and declared war afterwards. Costly to our Navy was the loss of war vessels, airplanes, and equipment, but more costly to Japan was the effectiveness of its foul attack in immediately unifying America in its determination to fight and win the war thrust upon it, and to win the peace that will follow.
Under the War Measures Act, over 21,000 Japanese Canadians, most born here or naturalized citizens, were uprooted from British Columbia. Their homes, farms, and fishing boats were seized, sold off for pennies. No evidence of disloyalty was ever found, yet they were branded enemy aliens. Here in Dresden, about 50 to 100 of these men arrived in 1942. Sent to this fairgrounds, they were part of the 4,000 Japanese Canadians dispersed to Ontario, forced into labor camps to fill wartime shortages. Under RCMP watch, they worked the sugar beet fields, their hands shaping the harvest while their lives hung in limbo. So I'm out here at the Dresden Fairgrounds, which is also where they have the arena for this small town where my mom grew up, and also a harness tracing raceway. This is where Japanese Canadians were brought during World War II, some of them, a small number, for a labor camp. Yesterday, my mom misremembered what happened during World War II when she was a kid, and thought that there were Japanese Canadians hiding out here to avoid being captured and then taken to internment camps. I'm going to get out and show you around here a little bit, because the place is still here after all these years. They still have the a fair here every year, and in fact this will be the 150th anniversary of the local community fair that they have. And you can see behind me, that's the Memorial Arena, the Ken Houston Memorial Arena. And behind me over here, that's the raceway. This is the fairgrounds. And then here, of course, they set up the rides and they put the fair on right here every year. But back in World War II, after Pearl Harbor, there was a lot of fear and paranoia, and that ramped up, of course, prejudice, racism. As a result, Japanese Canadians, most of whom at the time were living out in British Columbia because of geography and where they came into the country, a lot of them were forced to leave their homes. In fact, their property was confiscated, their homes, all of their property, because of the fear and government policies at the time. The research that I've done indicates that there was a 100-mile limit actually set up so that the Japanese Canadians who were there, even though the assessments from the authorities, police, intelligence indicated there was really no threat to Canada, the fear was so much that the government still forced those people to leave their homes, and many of them were taken to internment camps. But a lot were also, instead of being deported out of the country, they were sent to places like the fairgrounds here in Dresden, Ontario. And a labor camp was set up here. So the people who came, the Japanese Canadians, they were forced to work in the farmers' fields around here. A lot of tomatoes, vegetables grown here. There's a tomato processing plant just a stone's throw from me right over here. Living conditions were basic. They earned little, faced hostility from locals who petitioned against them, even calling them spies. A child here might have heard whispers of secret plots, though no such threat existed. It was fear, not fact, that fueled those tales. And it was forced labor, but they weren't hiding here, as my mom remembered, and I think even as a lot of people here do. My mom was fearful of them. She wouldn't come over here when she was a kid because she knew there were Japanese people here. And the war was on. And people were very, very afraid. They thought a lot of these people were spies, or that they were, potentially a threat. In fact, a lot of people, the word of the day back in those days was treacherous Japanese people. And this is where they came. They were forced to live here. But something shifted. As the war dragged on, farmers saw their skill, their grit. These workers kept Dresden's fields alive when labor was scarce. When peace came, many stayed in Ontario. Over 8,000 by 1947, building new lives from the ashes of loss. Today, the fairgrounds host fairs and livestock shows, not labor camps. The Japanese Canadian presence in Dresden faded, but their legacy echoes across Canada. over 120,000 strong now, thriving in every field. In 1988, the government apologized, paying $21,000 to survivors, a step toward healing a wound that still lingers. For the work that they did, it wasn't voluntary. They were forced to live here, forced to work in the farmers' fields, and they were paid, but not very much. About $20 a month, and even back in the 1940s, $20 a month was not very much. A dark chapter in Canadian history. This land holds stories of struggle, of contribution, of quiet triumph. The Japanese Canadians who toiled here weren't spies or enemies. They were neighbors we didn't yet know. And yet, in their hands, they planted seeds, not just of crops, but of a stronger, more honest Canada. Rick Walker, Maverick News, Dresden, Ontario. Let us move forward into the future, where hopefully we can judge others on the content of their character, not on the color of their skin, as individuals. For that is the true path to freedom and individuality is true diversity. Lest we forget. Love you guys. See you back here tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. On the flip side, take it away, Free Dog. Here's Maverick and the News Brothers with my best friend, Cosmo.
Well, I heard old Cosmo howling last night up on the hill where the moon shines so bright. He was singing a tune, lonesome dogs cry about freedom and running and touching the sky. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as a wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. Cosmo's got them paws that just itch to roam. He's chasing his dreams, he's far from home. With a heart full of love and a spirit so free, he's living his life wild and carefree. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as a wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of the blur. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the legs. Now the night's getting cold and the sky's turning gray, but Cosmo's still out there, he's miles away. He's not looking back, he's got his path to tread. With every step, he's leaving his bed. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as a wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. So if you're feeling lost, just think of Cosmo's run. Remember like it's never heard a bird. A heart full of love and a spirit so free. He's living his life wild and carefree. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard a word. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through the fields, breaking all the lanes.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.